Good evening and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm Ellliot Margolis, in case you forgot, because I haven't been here in a while. And I'm here with my two co-hosts, George Binns, if I remember correctly, and Gail Burke. And today we're going to be doing a complete 30-minute top of the page. Instead of me mouthing off for about 2 minutes about different issues, we want to talk about some things going on in this country that really get us kind of cranky, getting all of us kind of cranky. So, George, why don't you start the conversation, and we'll crank in when we're ready.
All righty. Well, basically, the issue comes down to what is now referred to as the Ferguson effect, in that there was an incident where a young black man got shot and killed. A lot of rioting took place, a lot of protesting, a lot of false information. You know, the hands up, don't shoot was totally discounted after people looked into it. So there's really a couple of issues involved. One is the perpetual rush to judgment. As soon as something happens, somebody's got to come up with, oh yeah, he did it, and point the finger, and create a story that justifies why he did it. And what happened in that particular case is tragedy all over. Somebody gets killed, obviously a tragedy. When the police officer involved was threatened, that's obviously a tragedy. Having to resign and finding out after he resigned, he was exonerated, in that the grand jury decided that, well, it was a situation where lethal force was authentically used. And all of a sudden, his life is ruined. The town is burned to the ground practically. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're black or white or someplace in between. If you had a business in that town, it was attacked just as well. So totally out of control. And it's one of these things where if somebody would just stop and wait, what really happened? Let's find out from somebody who really knows what really happened. I think an awful lot of that could have been avoided.
Well, my problem was, too, that it was a white police officer. It was a black victim. But the president weighed in on it before all the facts were known. He sent his emissaries, the Justice Department chief, the Attorney General at the time, Eric Holder, went, and, of course, his presidential advisor, the Reverend Al Sharpton, or as some people refer to him, the non-Reverend Al. And Al Sharpton is known to be a race baiter. And he goes in there and he starts talking about the blacks and the problems they're having and the police brutality and all of that. And the Justice Department rushed to judgment as well before all the facts were known, and of course aided and abetted by the media. And people get the wrong impression. There was no hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah.
That was the first problem.
Well, keep in mind that our country has become more, I wouldn't say it's more racist than it's ever been since the 60s, but it's certainly been more divided than it's since the 60s and Martin Luther King. And it's been divided because of Obama and because of Eric Holder. And remember, Obama doesn't get in office unless white people voted for him.
Yep.
Okay? And that's real important. And yet he sent 3 people to Ferguson for a funeral. But when our soldiers get killed, or when those 2 police officers in New York got murdered, nobody, absolutely nobody from the Justice Department came to their funerals. I mean, again, that to me is race baiting. The evidence was that the guy, first of all, the guy who got killed in Ferguson was not a nice guy.
No.
Okay? Did he deserve to get killed? No. But he also shouldn't have attacked the police officer. But he did rob a store. So he was not a nice guy.
But the media turned on the police officer and he was going around with a target on his back. He got death threats. They found out where he lived. They were going to his house. I mean, what else could the fellow do but resign and get out of there?
Well, I think the situation is a lot more complicated, and it goes a lot farther back than just Ferguson.
Yeah.
And anybody that's living in the low-rent district, and I don't care whether it's sky blue, pink with purple polka dots, who's ever there has got a tough life. There's no doubt about it. And it goes back quite a while. As long as we've had a country, it's been the same similar problem. I remember the movie The Gangs of New York. It was about the Irish gangs. And they were the low-rent district inhabitants at the time. And every nationality that has come into this country in droves, large numbers, ends up having to learn the system, having to assimilate, and they don't get to live in the better sections of town. That's just the way it is.
But I think we have a president in the White House who likes to portray his race as victims. And when you do that, and you do it constantly, and tell people that they're victims, people begin to believe it.
Well, he's correct. They are victims. You look at the murder rate in any one of the big cities, and it's the people who live in the low-rent district that are killing each other.
But
It's
a lot of that is
horrendous
black on
problem.
black crime, not white
But
on
the
black
thing
crime.
that gets me really cranky about that is, okay, a police officer kills somebody in Ferguson, everybody riots. 42 or 43 people have been killed in Baltimore since then. They've been murdered, black on black crime, and nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares.
No.
Where the heck is Al Sharpton saying to people, calm down? Black on black crime is not the way we want to go. And now when you look at Ferguson, you look at what just happened in Texas, and you look at what's happened in New York, and then you ask yourself, if I was a cop, what would I do?
Exactly.
You know? And that's a real problem. When you get robbed, or when you get beat, or when you have a car accident, or when you have any issues, who's the first person you call? The police.
Yep.
Yeah, 911 gets you a police officer.
Right.
Yeah.
And are there good police and bad police? Of course.
There-
There are
there
good
was
and bad of everybody.
There was a story yesterday about someone calling the 911. A cop came. This woman's, I think, her 2-year-old daughter stopped breathing.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one, yeah.
All right, and the cop came and did the CPR, the proper type of CPR for a 2-year-old, and the girl is fine now. Okay, was that carried on ABC?
No.
CBS?
No.
NBC? No. But that's what good cops do. They're trained to do this type of thing, and where would we be without the cops?
Well, I don't want to live in a country unless I have some kind of police protection. Because I know if I had someone breaking into my house, the first thing I would do would be to call 911. I want a policeman there. I don't care if he's black, white, green, or purple. I just want a policeman there. And what happened in Texas, we were shown a video, but they didn't show the entire video. And my question was, why were the police there in the first place? They were there because somebody that lived in that complex saw the fighting going on, and they called the police. Did he overdo? Possibly. But he was there by himself at first.
Yeah.
And there were mobs of teenagers. And they called them. I looked this up. I got some information. These flash mobs of teenagers go around to these different places and cause problems. They beat up on people. It's like the people that were going around, and what do they call it, knockout? They would just go up to some little old lady or little old man and just beat
and
on
when
them.
black people did that to white people, Al Sharpton never said a word.
Never said a word.
Never said a word.
Oh.
But the part of the rest of the story in Texas is a black mother of one of those kids said the cop was fine.
Yeah.
Okay? She said he reacted the way he should have reacted based on what she saw. She said it was, the white kids were not behaving like the black kids were.
That's right.
And he was trying to control the black kids who were acting poorly. This was a black mother who said that the cop was fine. Also part of the rest of the story was what that cop had done in the past couple of hours, which is very important because you have to understand the state of mind that a cop could have been in. He had just talked a woman out of committing suicide. And that is a major stress on anybody. I can't imagine having to do something like that. Then you get a call like this. None of us know how you would react, but he was a Marine. 10 years on the police force, and he has to resign because of something like this?
Yeah.
Unjustifiable resignation as far as I'm concerned.
The situation comes down to, it's got to make the news, it's got to be spectacular, and right now, a white cop on a black individual always makes the news. That's de rigueur. That's the way they do it.
Yeah.
And as you're pointing out, nobody takes the time to look into the story before it hits the 5 o'clock news with a bunch of fingers being pointed at somebody for bad behavior. And these situations get to be very complicated. I can imagine walking into a bunch of people that are having some sort of turmoil going on. You don't know who started it, who stopped it, who's doing what, who's in danger. And I remember the old story. You read you understand the phrase, the riot act? Literally, it means that you walk into one of these situations, you read the riot act, and you can start shooting. Things were that bad way back when. The riot act is real. And it's a thing that you've all of a sudden got to get the situation under control.
Well, he had teenagers, and you know what a group of teenagers can be like. They can be abusive, they don't pay any attention to what you tell them, and he had two guys coming after him. So he pulled his gun. He didn't aim it at anybody, but he pulled his gun.
Well, again, it's a situation in Fergus. All of a sudden, the cop is under attack.
Yeah.
Whether it's a real attack or not, that's what he perceived. And you point out, as a Marine, he's trained to react to those situations.
Well, I think the sad thing about the incident in Texas was the chief of police did not back him up at all. He was out there condemning him right away.
Obviously, he's intimidated by the press.
Yep.
And you can't get straight answers. You can go back to the situation in Cambridge when the Harvard professor came home and he couldn't get his door open.
Professor Gates, yeah.
Right, when the cop acted stupidly, according to the alleged president of the United States.
And this is the exact same thing over and over again. Somebody wants to make a point, and they'll grab any little tidbit, cherry picking is the nice phrase for it, and grab something and just blow it up out of proportion. And after a while, Obama had to apologize with a little beer fest in the garden.
But he did the same thing with with another incident, Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
If he had a son, he would have looked like Trayvon. Right. Well, come to find out, the pictures they were showing of Trayvon were these little innocent pictures of a 10-year-old. When you finally got the picture of Trayvon today, he was a big guy.
Yes, he was 6'1".
And he was beating up on the Zimmerman kid. Well,
Zimmerman was a big kid at the time.
He was big,
but he was overpowered. He was on his back, and he was getting his head bashed into the concrete.
But I don't think...
And it takes so long for all this stuff to get out.
And then we found out that one of the news media, I forget which one it was, MSNBC or CNN, had removed part of the... When they had the audio, they cut the audio. So it sounded as though what he said was racist. And it wasn't.
Here's the thing. 99, I'm sure 99% of the cops are not racist. I think 99% of people are not racist.
No, I don't think they are.
But you will never get rid of racism.
No.
You will never
That's true.
get rid of
Yep.
anti-Semitism. You will never get rid of sexism. You know, we're human. People have different feelings about things. I think most people don't care who you are or what you do.
Yeah.
They take you for, as Martin Luther King would say, you know, like, I want to judge you by the content of your character, not the color of your skin.
Yeah.
Most people believe that, and I'm sure he's turning over in his grave right now with all the stuff that's going on.
The problem I think too many people don't recognize is, as a species, it hasn't been too long since we came out of the jungles, and we had a totally different environment built into us through evolution. And the operative word to my way of thinking is, you live in a tribe, and you depend upon people of your tribe when things get tough. So it's always going to be us versus them. And as soon as you come up with any kind of difference, you have to look quick. Is he one of us? Is she one of us? Or are they one of them? And we're sort of geared to make those fast judgments. And this is what civilization has got to work out of the system. Okay, stop and think, what's really going on? Who is that person? What are they doing? What are they saying? Where are they coming from? These are difficult questions to get answered in 30 seconds. And yet the news media just jumps all over it, and next thing you know, they got a finger on somebody, and it hit the 5 o'clock news.
Well, the news media is not in the business of reporting news anymore. They like to make news.
Oh, they're entertaining.
Journalism is almost extinct.
Well,
It's not journalism
look
anymore.
what they're, I mean, to get off topic for just a second, look what they're trying to do with Marco Rubio now.
Yeah.
I mean, holy cow, he had to take college loans.
Well, never
That's
mind.
irresponsible.
He got 4 tickets in 17 years.
Unbelievable. He's a human being who sped. You know, I don't know too many people. I'd be willing to bet there's some people in our listening audience who's gotten a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have too.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, George. You're pretty perfect.
Yes, I walk on water too.
Yeah, you know.
I never did either.
Well, I have.
Shame
But
on you.
I know it. But I mean, look at this. You know, we've got so many things going on in the world with Syria, Iraq, Iran, North Korea, Greece. So many things going wrong in the world, and they're worried about a stupid speeding ticket or a college loan.
Yeah.
And this is what our media is today.
Well, this is Marco Rubio's week to get dumped on. Next week it'll be Ben Carson. They haven't been able to find anything yet on Ben Carson.
Yeah,
but
they can't
will.
find anything on
They will.
Hillary either.
Yeah.
I got a list. 2 pages.
Oh, well, I think that I think the police today, I think they're getting very nervous about going into a crowd, about handling domestic violence, because from what I understand, that's the worst thing to get yourself into.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't know what's behind that door that you're knocking on. But even with what's going on here, you don't know what's going to happen if you try to calm down a crowd, particularly if you're by yourself. Now, if it's a crowd of black teenagers, what does he have to do? Wait for a black cop to come and do it? That's ridiculous.
Well, but remember in Baltimore, in Ferguson, in Baltimore,
Yeah.
3 of the cops that they've indicted are black.
Yeah.
One of them's a woman.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but I suppose black on black crime is
Well, that's
We-
another
we-
case.
but-
You have a black district attorney that had them tried and convicted before she had all the information.
right.
Yeah.
And now we find out that she was the one that insisted that the police go into that particular area because it was rife with crime, drugs and dealing and all of that. She was the one that insisted they go there.
And remember LBJ, and for those of you who are too young to remember LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, his war on poverty.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? The war on poverty was to help get people out of poverty. Nice democratic principle, right? Since the war on poverty, which, by the way, we've lost, more people are in poverty now than ever before. Oh, by the way, more people are in poverty now since Obama took office as well than ever before. More people are on food stamps now than ever before. And all these democratic policies of trying to help people have added more crime, more poverty, and the lives that minorities have are not as good. But you know what else is very interesting? Do you see the same problem with Asians?
No.
Or with people from India?
No.
Or if you want to really get fine-tuning about it, the Hispanics that came out of Cuba. Or if you get some recent immigrants from Africa, they are doing much better than the natives.
Yeah,
So
and there's a reason for that.
Well, the basic thing is if you come to this country, you're packing up your marbles from where you used to be, you're giving up an awful lot, you're motivated to make it.
Right.
And I think that shows up, and it doesn't make any difference where you come from. But the fact that you show this initiative implies that you're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And eventually, I can remember having listened to a radio show. They were complaining about the shrimpers down in Louisiana. And a whole bunch of Vietnamese moved in after the war in Vietnam settled down. And the natives were all complaining that the Vietnamese were taking all the shrimp. Well, how are they doing that? Well, they're out there all day and all night. Oh, they're working harder than you are.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump brought them over.
Yes.
Well, don't forget, when our ancestors came over here, they came with nothing. And they got here and there was nothing. And they had to make it for themselves. There was no big brother to tell them, we're going to give you an Obama phone, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you food stamps,
They
we're going
did
to
it
do
without
this.
government assistance.
You got that right. And that's the problem. The government thinks they're so big now, they're going to provide. This is what the Democrats do. They're going to provide everything. They keep people dependent on them so that they don't have to work.
Are you implying that there's more people who vote for a living than work for a living?
And
Even
the dead ones vote.
The one that got me today is they were going through the number of people who don't pay income tax. It's now up to 47%. And there's got to be a way to get everybody to have some skin in the game.
Yeah.
And
flat tax.
Flat tax is one way
Fair
to do
tax.
it. This whole idea of we're going to tax the rich. If you go through the arithmetic, you find out that even if you take all the money that is reported as adjusted gross income from everybody that turns in a tax form and divide it up, you only move the median income up a couple of $1,000. It's not a big deal.
No.
Because, yeah, there are some people who are filthy rich, but there aren't that many of them.
Well, you have to look at people, and I'll use Ben Carson as a good example, because he was a fellow that came from nothing. He came from poverty. His mother was a single parent. So she raised he and his brother. She had to work. They had nothing. And what did he do? He read books. He educated himself. He went to college. He became the top, it's not a neurosurgeon, but
Pediatric
neurosurgeon, okay. At Johns Hopkins, for heaven's sakes.
Well, you got to give his mother credit for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, his mother said to him, his mother had a third grade education.
Yeah.
That was three fingers, yeah. But she said to both Ben and his brother, you will read. And he started reading, and he started liking it, and he started learning.
Yep.
And he came from nothing. She was the saint in that family.
And he was on the wrong path. He was
Yes.
going the wrong way.
I just finished reading his book.
Yeah.
A sensational book. I highly
Which one?
recommend.
He's written about 4 of them.
The one that I read. What was the name of it? One Nation.
Okay.
Yeah.
One Nation.
Yeah.
Sensational autobiography.
Yeah.
One of the anecdotes I like from that his background is he and his brother would have to go tell their mother what they just read.
Because she couldn't read.
And she couldn't read, and she had no idea what they've
Right.
said.
They had to give her a book report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'd hand a book report, but she couldn't read it. But they didn't know she couldn't read it.
That's right.
Yeah.
She was for a
wonderful.
third grade education, she was brilliant.
Yeah.
And she's very proud of what everybody can do that.
They can.
Okay, it just gives you the incentive, anybody who's poor doesn't have to be poor.
That's right.
Okay?
They need to work hard, they need to have a goal, and they have to begin to understand they don't have to be dependent on government. Government, get out of the way and let these people do their own thing. And they can do it.
And
I think children should be taught that from the very beginning.
And people who work for a living, like me, you guys are retired, but you used to work for a living.
Yep.
Yep.
Don't you deserve to keep some of the money that you've earned?
Of course.
I mean, if you work hard and you earn money, you don't mind paying taxes. I don't mind paying taxes, and I don't mind helping anybody that's willing to help themselves. But I resent giving money to people who can help themselves and don't.
And you see, this president could be so effective. He's got the bully pulpit. He's on television every single day. He could be the one to lead these people and to say, you can do it. You can help yourself.
Can
He
you imagine
chooses
how
not
it
to.
would be if he was reading from Martin Luther King's script instead of George Soros' script? Or
Or Saul
whoever it is,
Alinsky.
or whoever is behind him?
Yep.
But see, Jesse Jackson doesn't help the black community at all.
No, he doesn't.
Al Sharpton doesn't help the black community at all. Louis Farrakhan doesn't help the black
He
community
doesn't help
at all.
anybody.
The black community needs a leader.
Yeah.
They need
Yes, they
another
do.
Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
That's what they need.
Well-
Every so often you'll see a special on TV, and they will present a minister from one of these low-rent districts who's really trying and doing a good job.
Yeah.
And you'll see 30 seconds of him and never see him again.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that they've got to keep talking the same story and emphasizing that, hey, this guy is making a difference, or that lady is making it, or this group over here is making a difference.
And the media has to promote this kind of behavior as well.
People need to learn to help themselves.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm sorry, but our time is up. We must go. It's been fun. Thank you all for watching. We're going to be doing more of these shows because people seem to like it. So, good evening.
Point
and
out to them we've got a lot of room around this
We
table
do.
for more people.
we have room to have our guests come in and agree with us or disagree with us.
I'd say we'd have a round table discussion, but the table's not round.
Yes.
Good night, and thanks for watching.